I wanted to stop it there because I think it's ironic that the Pussy Riot poem, it should go right here. You know, maybe in his hand. This is optional art, but this is what I say about. I want you to listen to the last paragraph clearly what post-ignorance is about. It's about history, it's about knowledge, it's about the truth. I have uncovered ties of the Friedenkers and their money and power. In 1927, when Eccles first started becoming connected to the federal government, which the government needed him much more than they needed the government, Ogden was filthy, filthy rich. All goods from the entire Great Western expansion and vast resources had to pass through Ogden. It was the hub of every single rail line. It was the old artery of the heart to the east, the only artery to the heart of the East in Europe. John Browning, only 19 years old, which I have done work all over where his shop originally was. By the way, it comes full circle. That's where I was working when I got the news on my father, right there where the machine gun was invented. In the, with the Cold War and those bombs, oh, can I tie it all together? Just feet from the 1905 Temple invented the machine gun by watching a grain film moving in the wind in his father's workshop. The idea and the platform to make the automatic gun, his father and Marriner and his father David. They were the financial platform, like so many great Utah inventors like Philo. They had no platform to build their ideas. Browning did. His idea and the building of his idea transformed Europe and the world. It is an incredible irony, being that David Eccles was a byproduct of what a sick power in Europe had created, that he had been so influenced in the battles raging in Europe. They made billions by today's standards. The Eccles Brownings were intertwined in all ways of life. They had the making of one, if not the greatest business and arts synergies in world history. Marriner Eccles' incredible mind and gift for making business work, and John and Matt Browning, his sons, all three second-generation wealth and art makers, along with the Wattis brothers. They grew wealth fast, incredible wealth that has major influence and power to this day. They had even greater power in the FDR economic paths. They formed this land for decades. That is, unite the neo-ignorant movement took over until they took over. Like Americans have always been, the second generation made things thrive, and the third most always in American history, and today's destroys it or ruins it. The model has and come to be quantified in America to a T. It is the American tale, as Mormon tell. It is a giant piece of the American tale. When I research and I write, I do this with my agenda. I was born into a Mormon family, and I am still Mormon. I have not participated for 36 years. I come from and was raised by a very traditional Mormon grandmother in a contemporized manner. It was like this in the 60s in Ogden, Utah. The older Mormon women's second-generation European daughters raised the kids, worked on the farms, cooked the meals, canned the fruits and vegetables, quilted the blankets, and kept the faith, and sat with the children and the grandchildren in the church. We sat on the old wood benches made by some of the best craftsmen in the world. We watched the sun shine through the stained glass on the ancient lake floor at sunset. Our old magnificent church right next to our grand school, while the women and the children prayed, the men drank, smoked, played poker in Ogden's infamous gambling halls. It was the Mormon women who were the beehive worker, 24/7. I look back now, and I still think, how could those women work? Wow, could they work? And I have a reputation of being an unbelievable hard work. Not like them. I still sleep in the quilt my grandmother made me when I was 8 years old. I'm worse than Linus. It has been torn to nothing. No way am I giving that ever up. If only there could be a DNA test on that blanket. Wow, talk about infamous Ogden DNA bloodlines on that blanket. I have never would intend to question Mormon theology or religion for that matter. My agenda is to tell the truth about the incredible things in mind many Utahns have and have done. My grandmother, Delia and Myra Tracy Blanch, and Jay Merritt were very close childhood friends. Their farms and the Merritt's farm were where the defense depot is today, the prisoner of war camp in the 40s. Were right next to each other. My Aunt Janice always tells me, Kevin, you got Ike's gene. Maybe, but I know I am very Danish in taste and likes, and I have been very Swiss ideas. From a very young age, the Huntsakers are Swiss, and the Blanch line is Danish, adopted name. The Blanch name is adopted. I am a very big believer in your tastes and likes and ideas are entrenched in bloodlines, with a hard Western romantic twist. I do not participate and have read all kinds of perspective in my research, but I do respect others' choices in regard to religion. I respect good, honest work when I see it, no matter its agenda. Just because I like or love someone's work does not mean I agree with the thesis. I am a big believer in the truth. not what I want the truth to be. I have lived in a society based on religious thought and practice, big time, you know, just like Balco. I know that's a person's religious beliefs are powerful, very powerful, and I respect every one of their choices in regard to religion. That is why I get so upset as the political and economic practice being tied to religion. It does not and cannot be there. Society is shown over and over. Politics, religion, economics must be of their own, each of their own. We somehow in the United States have been tricked to economics and politics or religion. That is so wrong in so many ways. I believe church leaders of all faiths should address this said issue. The powers in this country will do anything to keep power. They have gotten downright religious, and the followers have drank it all up. I was working on the Mormon church offices in the early 80s, restoring the parking terrace. I was working for a company named Consil, and the president of the church would talk to me, Spencer Kimball. He was very old, and his security would have literally carry him to and from the motorcade. He and his security were very friendly to me. I liked him personally a lot. I do attend church, but I did like the church president, Spencer Kimball, and Hinckley, who was in that society. His son, the president of the Mormon church, was his bloodlines from here in Ogden were Friedenkers, the great socialist. Very much they both had a compassion for Utah and its people, not just Mormons. The Mormon church, like many other faiths, gets defined by its popular opinion. From its members at the grassroots, not at the top, although the top can make waves, we all know that but it is the masses, and I believe the masses of all faiths in this country and others have fooled themselves and let politics and economics become their religion. I find it unbelievable the Utah Economic Community anti-Eccles because of his economic theory and practice. He was a Mormon from Utah. His business made hundreds and hundreds of millionaires right here in Utah. Utah Construction, Wattis, Hinckley, Eccles, Browning, all Utahns that made Utahns rich in art and money. They were socialists. Yes, the religious politics and economics today are so impassioned in total neo-ignorant way it is pathetic. It was his strength that gave Hodson the economic platform to build all the magnificent Art Deco structures. In Ogden, dozens of them. We all got to go to school in them and work in them and play in them and drive to the iconic magnificent art every day because of Eccles. It was his brain that the country turned to. It's not his money. He watched fortunes go down in flames at 29, 30, 31, and 32. He was in his face. He was of the mind. He said so many of them. His strategy the country needed. He had to use his tools, his brain. He used not out of religious economic idealism, out of necessity. He made it work right here in Ogden. So FDR thought through his probably Masonic and, well, we know not probably, his Masonic and banking connections called on him. He was not an ideologue like the economists of our day, all theory and no practice. It is not of him. His bourgeoisie, the French word for the middle, he would say. The middle class, he wrote. That is what the extreme philosophies of wealth of nations on one side and the Communist Manifesto on the other. This is quoted out of his book that he watched fell. Both of them were getting uglier and uglier. People in the 1930s, contemporary people were starving to death, freezing to death, women and small children living in breeways of buildings. Hundreds of thousands of men hopping trains, sleeping in open fields, begging for a bite or anything at cafes and people's homes, digging through garbage cans. He saw this. These were his people. He was not a He was that of the working class background. He had a soul. He was a Christian in his youth, taught Christian values from his parents. You think they did not know starvation? They lived in the infamous Scotland slums, Cadunskins. Like Ayn Rand was a counter to all the ugly she saw, so was Eccles and FDR. It was the reality. If any of you have seen Cinderella Man, that is how it was. Remember the WPA and the historians and the writers in this fact, that Eccles and FDR considered art as important as any part of our fabric. They hired thousands of artists into the WPA and designed as a platform. Grand work that is adorned all over this country. That is the work of the WPA. It is our architectural platform. The great free market wealth of the times even got involved. The Rockefellers and Vandlers started using more artists, design, and artists. As they said at the beginning of this book, it is art that will lead us out. It is always the artist that leads us out. We have no venue. We have no make of our own. Keep rubbing sticks. The spark will come. I believe it in my soul. The spark will come. As I've been rubbing sticks. This is before I got cancer. I have gotten so tired of being hammered by ignorance in regard to the west of my home, Utah. What I hear in the east, to all Utahns who hear somewhere gets old. It is stereotypical. Yes, the things you hear are true. 34% of Utah population, they are true, most of the myths. But there are 60 to 7% of Utah non-Mormon and more practicing and non-practicing that get swept up in it. I live in Utah, so I like to use local crime as a parallel of our society. When Ed Smart would bring the homeless to his big home, over 50 of them, to work on his house and pay them with a sandwich, he was in defiance of all logic and common sense, but his addiction to money and his need to be on the hill in the oversized house he could not afford, while he had young daughters in the said home, trumped all logic. By any society's or community's thinking, honestly, who does that? The sickos, not to mention the investigators, who were given a list of the culprit's name on it, and his family was never even asked about them. The culprit's family, they were right there. They knew all about him. He was right in the area the whole time. They knew he was a pedophile, his family. No one even questioned him, as her sister gave up the name on day one. 300 investigators, they didn't investigate. No one bothered to check the list or talk to the family members on the list. This is a fact. This is a fact. I had young daughters at the time, and I lived 40 miles from the Smarts. I, like other parents in Utah, were very nervous about the whole thing. I was listening to KSL, which is our big mouthpiece here, the Mormon mouthpiece. The day after the kidnapping, the dogs had went in the scent mountains behind the house. They had traced the scent up from her window up to the back of the house, up into the mighty Wasatch. A man helping with the search called KSL live. I heard this live. And he said, I saw a man and proceeded to describe the eventual culprit. And he said he looked like Jesus. He had a big long beard, and he ran into a cave on the side of the mountain and hid. That is a fact. It was him. And they had 300 agents on the case. I think it is so incredible metaphor for what this country has become over the past few decades. But the type of thinking, it's not Mormons or Utah. This said type of idealism is not unique to Utah. It is all across America. It somehow gets nailed down as so-called Mormon crime. It is pure stereotypical thinking. The whole country's lost their minds and their ways. They've all become radical religious nuts with no logic. Ogden, Utah, and Weber County in Utah have some incredible men and women. They get put into one camp or the other, just like our country has in regard to politics. The incredible work of Fawn McKay, of Bernard DeVoto, both Ogdenites, both Pulitzer Prize winning authors, of David O. McKay, of the Wattis brothers, of the Thomas D., of Jay Merritt, of Marriner, Eccles, of Leslie Hodson, of John Browning, of Alan Ashton, of Bruce Bastian, is divided into Mormon right-wing political supply-side economics, or against the said right wing and their demonizing. It is wrong. Their work and their incredible stories are Mormon. They are the American tale. I'm writing a book in regard to all the said subject matter, and is much different than this book. This book is my rant and my 2 cents, my counterculturist rant. My next book is in more the Ramonic style, the Ballad of Cement, and a very well embedded research to mine and only me. No one is going to bias me. I have kept money out of this. I've kept influences out of this. I'm reading this for free online. No way, not no how. I do not care about money. I do not care about fake respect. I do not care about my house on the hill, my plastic white smile or breast. I care about art and the truth. I will in my next book, which I am much larger in this book than is not a rant, which is a book is my counter is a rant, which almost all literature and media is a rant. Somehow passive, aggressive, sneaking, the worst kind. And then a few like mine. What you see is what you get. I will fight the fakes. I will go toe-to-toe with the historians, the economists and the artists and the fake politician and the fake religious thieves, time and any place, the true great-minded, rounded and schooled in practice in all studies, not in pure one area academia. It leaves gaping holes, giant gaping holes. I've told myself my whole life, as my old plaster mentor would say, 30 years, every day, and you might be getting close. Until you have your own recipe, you will not be a master. I have always known that. I waited until I am 50 to come out of the artistic closet. I have been there the whole time. I have painted there. I have sculpted there. I have plastered there the entire time. I have not shown any of my work in public till now. I have a lot of it. I will only paint in the truth no matter who it offends. Like the Welsh blood, like blind female said to me, Kevin, I still love you because you really honestly don't care.